Hello people, Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about astrology and athletes. I'm not going to be talking about what professions I feel athletes would be most suitable for, but more what I'm going to be emphasizing in this segment is, I guess you could talk about maybe their demeanor, their personalities of the 12 astrological signs, and how it impacts maybe the way they play the game and their personality that is connected with the game. The first sign I'm going to go with, of course, chronological order or whatever, is Aries. And Pete Rose, former MLB player, his name's been kind of maligned because he was, involved with the gambling and, been banned from the Hall of Fame and this and that. But, he did play the game very aggressively. Anybody that was assertive and aggressive, it was him. Sure, some of you, I don't know, a lot of you might not have been alive then. I wasn't, but I've, seen it on TV, that famous play when he plowed into catcher at an all-star game, knocked the ball out of the catcher's hand, and he scored a run in that particular moment. I mean, that pretty much epitomized Pete Rose's style of play. We see some, other personalities too, sports figures that are Aries. Adrian Peterson, running back for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, people that follow pro football know he's very outspoken and not afraid to speak his mind. Another person comes to mind is Richard Sherman, cornerback for the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL, and he's somebody that it really comes out and states whatever he basically feels at the time. So that's definitely very atypical of Aries. Okay, next sign I'm going to talk about is Taurus. Okay, Taurus, Michael Jordan, NBA legend, has Taurus rising. And, there's some things that are very methodical in Taurus about him, even though he, arguably revolutionized the game of basketball more than any other player. He also, he would be the type of player to score 30 to 35 points in the continuity of a game, and you wouldn't really know he did it until the end of the game. He would get like maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 points one quarter, then he'd do the same thing the next, and before you know it, he's got 30 to 35 points, because I think a lot of that was connected with his Taurus rising style of playing right there. Now, next I want to talk about Gemini. Gemini obviously can be a multifaceted and versatile athlete. You look at Jim Thorpe, who is known, has Sun in Gemini and Gemini ascendant, and but no big shocker there, I guess. And he played numerous sports. He was involved with a decathlon and pentathlon, I believe. And he was obviously Mr. Versatility as far as the sports goes. And another as a football player, I believe he's Gemini, Shannon Sharp, who is like an analyst for analyst kind of I guess you could say it's what he is right now, or something close to it. And if anybody had a voluble tongue, it's him. He's someone never at a loss for words. Next sign I'm going to get into is Cancer. And we had a baseball player, pro baseball player, that played some time ago, and some of you may have heard of him. He was Rick Sutcliffe. I don't know if he played on other teams, but I know that he played on the Chicago Cubs for some years. And despite the thing with Cancer being kind of passive and sometimes known to be somewhat timid, he was a lot of times, if there was a squabble on the baseball field, he would be either the first or one of the first people out to the mound or out to the the field to defend a teammate in that kind of instance or situation. And I look at Cancer personalities in sports. They seem like they could be very strong defenders. A lot of Cancer people, I believe, Sun in Cancer, Cancer rising, can perceive their team as kind of their family, and it's no surprise that Rick Sutcliffe was that kind of guy that would run out to defend his fellow players, who wouldn't surprise me if he viewed as a family in his own way. Next sign I want to get into is going to be Leo, and no one's going to be flabbergasted or shocked at this. Muhammad Ali, legendary pro boxer, had Leo rising. Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He'd always do his trash talking or whatever you call it before a fight, and he came across as arrogant and bombastic to a lot of people, but he did back up his talk, and he was somebody that was very showy and flamboyant, and that's typical of a Leo personality. Now, and you also know that Hulk Hogan is Sun in Leo plus I believe Leo ascendant, so I mean he shows the charismatic, vibrant quality that Leos have, and he's the type of person when he walks into a room, people notice it, and he has a lot of presence whether it was in the wrestling, in the ring, or even outside of wrestling. Okay, the next sign I'm going to talk about is Virgo, and obviously Virgo is hard worker, demonstrate a good work ethic, punctilious to details, very meticulous in their planning. NBA superstar Kobe Bryant, is no shocker, is a Virgo, and he's a guy that studies film extensively before a game. He's a person that goes through regimented, rigorous training schedules and routines, and which includes lifting weights, and it could be push-ups, but his preparation is intense, to say the least, and his I would say very downright impeccable, and in my mind, it could very well be unprecedented as far as NBA players go, and I think that's what makes him, helps make him, besides God-given ability, helps make him one of the best players in the league and in possibly league history. I believe he's in the top 10 in scoring points all time, and his career average, I think, is around 25.5 points per game. So he's definitely one of the better players of all time. And now I'm going to go to Libra. And Libra can be known as reticent, humble and modest. And Tom Brady, quarterback of the New England Patriots in pro football, has Libra rising. And I think what showed his Libra rising came out one time. There was like a pre-game kind of press conference in 2007, and the New England Patriots were going to play the Indianapolis Colts, and he lauded Peyton Manning, and he said Peyton Manning was smarter than him, and basically said in whatever main facet of the game there was, that Manning was better than him. And I think that's very strong in the Libra rising that Tom Brady has, and the fact that he was very modest, and he didn't come across as egotistical or arrogant, and basically stated that Manning this and Manning that, without really talking about himself. So the next sign I'm going to talk about is Scorpio. Now, with Scorpio, I see Scorpio personalities as being very resilient and having tremendous bounce-back ability. Now, we look at Phil Simms was a former quarterback for the New York Giants, and now he's on Showtime's Inside the NFL. I guess you could say kind of like analyst. And in the 85-86 season, the Giants had lost a divisional game to the Chicago Bears, 21-0, got trounced. The next season, he bounced back pretty good. The Giants went 14-2 the next season and won the Super Bowl, annihilating Denver in it. And actually, the Giants even lost the first game of that season in the regular season. And Scorpios are known, to come back and bounce back from adversity. And I think, Phil Simms and a lot of Scorpio personalities in sports do have this strong ability to be able to do this. And I think Phil Simms was one that really had that ability strongly. I want to talk about Sagittarius, and we see in Sagittarius, like I think, to me, it's like the quintessential athlete. It's somebody that just wants to play so badly and is so optimistic and expansive and has ability to have this rub off on other people. We take NBA Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas, who has Sagittarius rising, and there was a game in the NBA Finals, Game 6, 1988, where he had really he hurt himself pretty strongly. I believe he sprained his ankle, He wound up scoring 25 points in the third quarter of Game 6 of those finals in a losing effort. Showed a lot of courage and fortitude in doing so, but it's just so hard, to get a Sagittarius personality to stop playing, and I think that's one of the things we see with Sagittarius athletes. Bo Jackson, who played pro baseball and pro football, regarded by many as one of the greatest overall athletes we've ever seen, and that's another prime example. And ESPN had named, I believe, Bo Jackson the greatest athlete of all time in one of their issues at some point in time. Now I'm going to go to Capricorn, and Capricorn, is a kind of athlete, that's very conservative, conventional, orthodox, not flamboyant or flashy. They just go out and take care of business and do what they have to do. And I'll take like a Wade Boggs, a former pro baseball player, MLB player, who has Capricorn rising. He had 10 consecutive seasons of batting .301 or greater, 15 total in 18 seasons, and he just went out as very quiet and just did what he had to do, and he's one of the greatest hitters we've seen. And there was, like I said, there was nothing arrogant, nothing flashy about him. Just went out and did his job, and was very industrious, had a good work ethic, and I think that's what we see in Capricorn personalities in the sports world. Now I'm going to talk about Aquarius. Now I used Michael Jordan as the example in the Taurus. Michael Jordan also has Sun in Aquarius, and Michael Jordan, arguably revolutionized the game of basketball more than any other player. Aquarius personalities often, I think, leave a certain impact, indelible impression on the sport that they play. He had his little tongue-wagging thing going on, and things, and just the way his moves were, unbelievable, phenomenal. I mean, they were very, a number of them were very unique and original, and that's typical Aquarius. NHL player Wayne Gretzky is arguably the greatest hockey player we've ever seen. Now, I don't know about as far as his moves go, but he was a very passive player, and generally would not, was not combative or pugnacious, and would not get involved in physical confrontations with other players. And he showed that, that he was a maverick in his own way by showing that you didn't have to be somebody that was rough and someone that would constantly, or have a temperament where you want to fight and be a hockey player. You could be a finesse player and still be successful. You didn't necessarily have to be rough and tough to be, a successful hockey player. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about Pisces. And Pisces, we have pro soccer player Landon Donovan, and on 2 occasions he renounced, gave up his captain position. Firstly, to accommodate David Beckham in 2007. Then he had given up for another player, which I'm not sure of his name off the top of my head, but he gave it up for another player, I believe in 2013. And after 2007, he won, the team, for some years, they won the MLS Cup in 2011, 2012. He had actually got his captain, position back, I believe in 2009, but it showed that he was able to relinquish the position. Pisces is about self-sacrificing. Relinquish that position 2 times, and I think that's the thing we see with Pisces in sports, is the self-sacrifice part of the personality, and they're willing to do that, I believe, especially if it's going to be advantageous and beneficial to the team that they're playing for. Well, anyway, people, that is it for my YouTube astrological segment for astrology and athletes, and stay tuned next time where I'll be continuing my aspect segment series on YouTube. And until next time, people, stay well.